So this project was inspired by this Pinterest find, but I made mine with a zipper at the back and without the stand collar, and I also modified the length to make a cute playsuit. Here's how I did so. I'll be using a Pfaff vintage sewing machine, the iconic model 1222 made in Germany in 1968. You would need the following measurements. The crotch depth. This is the vertical distance from your natural waistline to a hard surface when seated. The hip circumference. This is taken around the fullest part of your hips. The elbow to elbow span. This is the horizontal width from your left elbow crease to your right elbow crease. This measurement determines the distance from the left sleeve hem to the right sleeve hem. The dress length, taken from your higher shoulder point down to your ankle. The length to waist, taken vertically from the higher shoulder point down to the waistline. The bicep circumference, taken around the fullest part of your upper arm. The waist circumference, taken around the narrowest part of the waist above the belly button. The design is really simple. There's a boxy top and loose pants cut together as one piece. This tutorial is divided into 3 main parts: pattern drafting, planning the tucks, and sewing. It's an all-in-one pattern with the 2 pieces merging at the waistline and tucks used to cinch in the waist. Starting with the top. Mark a 1/2 inch shoulder seam allowance at the top edge of the fabric. And then draw a line as long as half of the elbow to elbow span. And from the end of that line, draw a line as long as the length to waist. And from the end of that second line, draw another vertical line equal to 1/4 of the hip circumference plus 3 inches of wearing ease. This is also called the quarter east hips. And this line is the waistline. And ensure that the distance between the 2 horizontal lines is maintained at the length to waist. Next, mark a point beneath that top line equal to half of your bicep circumference plus 4 inches. This gap will represent the sleeve opening. Draw a 2-inch guideline, connect it to the waistline with a curve. This gives the underarm curve, which leads into the side. And the sleeve opening is the armhole. For a basic round neckline, mark a neckline width of 2.75 inches. And a neckline depth of 3.5 inches. Draw 1/2 inch guidelines and connect both points with a curve. Here's the completed top pattern. This will be used to cut the front and the back pieces of the top. Moving on to the pants pattern, starting with the back legs. Extend 2 vertical lines from the waistline all the way down to your desired pant length. From the waistline, mark out the crotch depth plus 3 inches of wearing ease for a loose fit. And from that point, draw a line as long as the hip circumference divided by 8. This is the back crotch line. Connect it with a vertical line to the bottom edge of the pants. Mark a diagonal guide point 1.75 inches away and draw a crotch curve through this point and up to the back crotch line. This is the back crotch curve. And here's the completed pants back leg pattern. Next is the pant front legs. This is constructed like the back, but with the following differences. The front crotch line is shorter than the back. It's as long as the hip circumference divided by 16. The diagonal guide point is also shorter. It's 1.5 inches away. So the front crotch curve will be drawn slightly closer and shorter than the back. Here's a side-by-side comparison of the completed pant legs patterns. Tucks will be used to cinch the waistline. Presently, the width of the waistline is equal to the quarter east hips. This is much wider than the actual quarter waist circumference, so 2 equally spaced tucks will be used to remove the excess. And after stitching the tucks, the width of the remainder will be equal to the quarter east waist. First, divide the waist circumference by 4, which will give the quarter waist circumference. and then add a wearing ace of 0.25 inches. This will give the quarter east waist circumference. Next, subtract the quarter east waist from the quarter east hips. This will give the excess that needs to be removed using tucks. Now 2 tucks will be used for this removal, so divide the excess into 2, which will give the width value of each tuck unit. After stitching the tucks, the waistline would appear to be sectioned into 3 parts, with the tucks embedded within. So divide the quarter east waist into 3, which will give the width value of each waist unit. Here's how to mark out the tucks evenly. You need the following measurements: the waist unit, the tuck unit, and the tuck line length. Start by marking out a waist unit, and then draw a tuck line, and then mark out a tuck unit, and draw another tuck line. The length of the part lines is 5 inches, 3.5 inches above the waistline and 1.5 below the waistline. And here's the first tuck. Again, mark out a waist unit, and then draw a tuck line, and then mark out a tuck unit, and draw another tuck line. And here's the second tuck. The 2 tuck lines for each tuck will be stitched together. And then add seam allowances to the side, the neckline, and the center. Also add hemming allowance to the bottom edge of the pants. And then cut out the completed pattern. So now the patterns are completed, I'll cut the fabric pieces for a Playsuit. I used 2 yards of medium weight cotton for the Playsuit. I layered the fabric and cut the back pattern and front pattern one after the other, starting with the back. And after cutting, I'll end up with 2 back pieces. Now for the front. Here are the Playsuit pieces, 2 for the front and 2 for the back. First, transfer the tuck markings to the fabric. You would have 4 pieces with 2 tucks on each piece. So after sewing, there will be a total of 8 tucks on the Playsuit, 4 tucks in total in front, and 4 tucks in total at the back. Before stitching on the sewing machine, you could either pin each set of tucks together or baste with a hand needle. This will ensure that the machine needle passes through the tuck lines precisely, connecting both lines perfectly. Precision is important when using tucks to do a cinched waist. Make sure to backstitch at the start and end of every line. Try to sew as carefully as possible. Pressing the tuck lines after sewing is very important. This makes the tuck lines appear crisp and sharp. There are 4 pieces for each garment, a front and back piece for the left side, and a front and back piece for the right side. Join the front piece to the back piece at the right side of the garment. Place the front piece over the back piece, and then join them at the shoulder, the side, and the pant leg in seam. And after sewing, you would see the center front edge, the crotch cuff edge, and the center back edge. The sleeve opening would also be visible, and the pant leg opening will be visible too. Next, join the front and back pieces on the left side of the garment. Now join the completed left side and the completed right side of the garment together. Turn the left side of the garment with the wrong side of the fabric facing outwards. Now, insert the piece with the fabric right side out into the piece with the fabric wrong side out. Place one sleeve into the other sleeve and place one pant leg into the other pant leg. Make sure that both pieces are perfectly aligned along the center front edge, the crotch cuff edge, and the center back edge. Now pin the pieces together before sewing on the machine, but leave the zipper area unpinned along the center back. A full-length zip will be attached along the center back edge. Next, stitch the pinned areas together on the sewing machine. And after sewing the left and right sides together, the completed garment shape can be seen much more clearly. Here is the assembled playsuit. Next, attach a zipper to the unstitched section at the center back. An invisible zip gives a clean, discreet finish. It blends almost seamlessly beside the tuck lines. I overlocked the edges and I used facing pieces to finish the neckline edge. On the pattern, mark a point 2.5 inches downwards and mark another point 2.5 inches inwards. Both points are exclusive of the seam allowance on the pattern paper. Then connect both points with a curved line. This is the facing outline. Place another piece of paper underneath. Align the paper edges perfectly with the pattern edges and use a tracing wheel to trace out the shape, inclusive of the seam allowance on the pattern paper. Cut out the facing piece, inclusive of the seam allowance at the edge of the neckline curve. And cut out two facing pieces, one for the front and one for the back. For the front piece, trim off the seam allowance at the center because it will be cut on fold. These are the completed facing pieces. Place the center of the front pattern against the folded edge of a piece of fabric. The facing for the front will be cut on fold, making one piece. But the facing for the back will be cut on separate layers of fabric, making two pieces. Place the front piece over the back pieces and attach them together, sewing along the top edge. And after sewing, overlock the edges. And here's how to attach the facing piece to the garment. Place the completed facing piece against the neckline of the garment with the right sides of the fabrics touching. Begin sewing from the right side of the back neckline curve up until the front neckline curve and down to the left side of the back neckline curve. After that, flip the facing piece over the seam allowance and understitch. Finally, sew the facing piece against the center back seam allowance on the garment, sewing just outside the zipper on both sides. To hem the sleeves, simply fold the edge inwards by 1 inch and then sew either with blind stitches or regular stitches. I opted for blind stitches because I like the clean tailored finish. After sewing, press with an iron. For the pants, I folded the bottom edge inwards by 2 inches and I also sewed the fold with blind stitches. I thoroughly enjoyed the sewing process and I like the fun vibe of the playsuit. Thank you for watching!